So the UK is to get its fourth Prime Minister in just over 6 years. Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary, takes over on Tuesday after winning the race to succeed Boris Johnson as the Conservative Party leader. Ms Truss, who is 47 years old, has been rising steadily for years, her ambition soaring with her career, and today saw her achieve the top of the list in Britain. She beat her rival, the former Finance Minister, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, by 21,000 votes in a poll of party members. So now that she's got the power that she's sought, it's come with a daunting in-tray amid an energy crisis, inflation, and the threat of a recession, not to mention divisions within her own party. So in those circumstances, what kind of leader will she be? Well, for more about Britain's next Prime Minister, Liz Truss, I'm joined now on the line from the UK by Arise editorial director Nick Jennings. Great to see you, Nick. So Liz Truss confirmed as the new Prime Minister. She takes over on Tuesday, and presumably her biggest job will be attempting to sort out the cost of living crisis.
Well, not just the cost of living crisis, Charles, but the whole economy is in a mess. I mean, she said that her priority is going to be fixing the energy crisis. And of course, along with that, you've got the stock market is plummeting, inflation is soaring, and the cost of living, as you mentioned, is rocketing. So these are very, very difficult times for the United Kingdom at the moment. People are really struggling with their budgets, and much worse is predicted to come, with a sort of winter of desperation, as some people are putting it, just around the corner. And Liz Truss has got a real battle on her hands to try and come up with some solution. She said that what she's going to do almost immediately is fix the energy crisis. And I think that's one of the first things she's going to do when she comes back tomorrow from meeting the Queen and being formally given the role of the Prime Minister, that she'll come back and then make a speech in which she'll outline how she is going to fix the energy crisis, and along with that cut taxes and pour money into the economy, which is all sounds very good. But of course, as we know, the practicalities are very much different to the politics.
Well, absolutely. And you mentioned there, Nick, talk of potential tax cuts to come. Does it sound like this is going to be a very different type of Conservative government to the one we've seen in recent years, where taxes have been going up to pay for the cost of things like the pandemic?
Well, this goes to the root of what the Conservative Party stands for, and it claims to be the party of low taxation, but we've seen taxation rise under Tory governments for the last 8 years or so quite rapidly. And this is what many people within the Conservative Party want changed, which is why Liz Truss had such appeal to them, because that's what she says she's going to do. She's going to cut taxes, and at the same time, she's going to increase growth. Now, how she manages to square those and what remains to be seen. There's no doubt about it. Some people are regarding what she's taking on is very much a poisoned chalice, and whether she has the intellect to do it, whether she has the organization skills to do it, and most importantly, whether she has not just the backing of the country, but certainly the backing of her own party to get through some of these dramatic changes that she wants to institute.
Well, you're absolutely right, Nick. And Liz Truss, of course, now Britain's third female Prime Minister. She's been Foreign Secretary, so she's not a stranger to the world's leaders and diplomats, but probably is largely unknown in the world and possibly even in the UK until sort of recent weeks at the hustings. What are a number of things that we need to know about her?
Well, she comes, if you like, from a sort of political family. Both her parents were sort of involved in politics, if that's the right word. Her mother took her on marches against nuclear weapons. She became very interested in politics when she was at Oxford University. Some regard her as a bit of a political chameleon, in that she sometimes changes her colours. She was, of course, when she was at Oxford University, she was a member of the Lib Dems, a very active member of the Lib Dems. In fact, she attended the party conference in 1994 and gave a rousing speech in which she said that we Liberal Democrats believe in opportunity for all. And she went on to argue in favour of abolishing the monarchy, which will be quite interesting and no doubt a topic of conversation when she goes to meet the Queen tomorrow in Balmoral. But as I said, she does have a reputation for changing her political colours. She supported Remain. She wasn't in favour of Brexit, but then she changed her tune, perhaps for political political advantage. And now she claims that it was right for Britain to pull out of the European Union. So yes, she's a bit of a sort of what some might regard a follower of people that might say, if you don't like my principles, I can always change them. And that's one of the arguments that has been raised against her.
That's a very interesting description there, and I think that will be something that a lot of people internationally would want to be looking at very closely. And just going into the final hustings, Nick, a non-white man and a woman, does that suggest with some justification that the Conservatives have become a progressive party in terms of gender and race?
Well, I think they broke the mould. Many people would say they broke the mould when Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister back in the late 1970s, and not just a Prime Minister, but according to many Tories, that she was the best Prime Minister they'd had since Winston Churchill, and that changed the mould. And she certainly changed the mould of how the country was run and changed the economy. And she still has to this day many, many admirers, and also many people in other parties that consider that she took Britain on the road to ruin in terms of human rights and workers' rights, etc. So I'm not sure that this is a new mould that's unique to Liz Truss, but certainly when you look at what the field was, there weren't many really standout candidates that were going to challenge the two that got to the final hustings, Charles.
Well, quite. And this was obviously a contest within the Conservative Party. I mean, but I wonder how enthused people in the UK have been about the competition.
Well, that's a very good question, and I think most people are absolutely fed up to their back teeth with the way that the politics of this country has sort of been over the last few years, and certainly under Boris Johnson, there was a lot of dismay and distrust with a lot of the things that he was doing. Equally, there were a large number of people that very much supported what Boris Johnson was doing and supported what he did in terms of getting us out of the European Union, and of course dealing with the pandemic, and of course his support for Ukraine. So, I mean, there's always very much a sort of mixed church, and certainly in terms of the Conservative Party, as to those that supported Boris Johnson and those that didn't. And let's not forget, it was his own party, it was his own politicians, it was the members of his own cabinet that actually got rid of him, not the people of Britain. We didn't get a chance to vote for that.
And I'm wondering what people, Nick, in the European Union will make with a sort of cursory glance of the new British Prime Minister. I mean, Liz Truss is said to have made a few political enemies in Brussels, didn't she? Although, as you said, she started off as a Remainer.
Well, I think they'll be looking at what's going on in Britain with, to a certain extent, some glee, because they'll believe that Britain has brought this upon itself by withdrawing from the European Union, and then the chaos of Brexit and the political arguments that went backwards and forwards. As far as how she stands on Europe, I think that remains to be seen. I mean, she is very much what's regarded as on the right of the party, and she doesn't necessarily support any any of the rules that the European Union set in terms of workers' rights. In fact, she's made it clear that if she wants to create this growth for the country, that she certainly wants to start looking at some of these trade union rules and some of the rules that make workers' rights in order to try and get the economy back on track and get people back working and working longer hours, etc., etc. So I think perhaps we'll say that the jury is out as far as how she fits in with the European Union.
And finally, Nick, given that Liz Truss, of course, Britain's next Prime Minister, has been selected by 160,000 Conservative members, is there a sense of a real sort of democratic deficit here, a lack of legitimacy until the next general election?
I think we're going to have to wait and see what happens in the next few weeks and months as we go into winter, because there's certainly a lot of alarm in some quarters that as prices rise and as people can't afford to pay their bills, that there may well be civil disturbances. I mean, not only she's got to face all the challenges of trying to fix the economy and stop, roaring inflation, etc. There may well be, as some people are predicting, civil unrest on the streets. So we've heard that the police are already making plans to put into force or to put into effect the right conditions to try and combat that. I think these are very, very difficult times. And it goes back to what I said at the very beginning, Charles, that many people think that this is very much a poison chalice that she has taken on. And whether, of course, she is still there in 2 years' time is by no means certain, because there could well be not only rebellions within her own party, but you might have a sort of the Labour Party renewed with vigour to try and think that they can get some kind of vote of no confidence in her as things become stickier and stickier when she sets out to achieve what many people regard is very, very difficult.
Poison chalice indeed. Nick, I want to thank you very much indeed for that analysis. And Nick Jennings, of course, Arise editorial director, and he was talking to me there from the UK.